introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, how are you this morning?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Well, you had 2 weeks worth of still learnings to do. So what is on your mind before we get started today?
Well, I received an email and someone asked about how do you know when someone considers mistreatment? Because I talk about justice all the time, and justice is the absence of any type of mistreatment. So that's a legitimate question. That's a logical question. What is mistreatment? I mean, when is a person being mistreated? Are we going to nail that down or just leave it to whatever, anybody thinks that it is? Because everybody might have their own idea about what mistreatment is. So we want to make that as clear and as focused as possible, which is what codification is.
Yes,
it's
sir.
about clarity and focus. So I would say that you detect and reveal mistreatment by making every possible comparison. Mistreatment is by comparison, whether a person is being treated correctly or a person is being treated incorrectly. So a codified position on that would be detect and reveal mistreatment by making every possible comparison with how one person is given benefits as compared with how every other person is given benefits in regards to each area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and our war. In other words, if you're going to talk about whether or not any person is receiving the correct treatment, you have to say correct treatment in regards to what? So you might say, well, in just economics, or when it comes to legal matters, when it comes to entertainment, or when it comes to something dealing with a job, like something in labor or something like that. No, if you're talking about mistreatment in an entire society that guarantees that no person will be mistreated, you consider all these areas of activity, and you have to consider whether anybody is being mistreated at any time. That's the goal. Anything short of that goal is unacceptable, because then you won't have justice. So you look for any form of mistreatment, and that will be by comparing how one person is treated as compared with how another person is treated in every possible circumstance. It's got to be just that tight. Now that means that a lot of labor, a lot of thought has to be gone into, has to be done in order to make judgments about mistreatment. And everything will slow down in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't rush through it.
Yes.
But this will have to be the procedure for the future. I mean, we are existing in a very fast-moving social system. It's been accelerating for some time. Everybody's on the move. Everybody's, gets up in the morning and they're going here and going there and doing this. They're talking fast. But no, things may not get done at the best time like we always want them done if anybody is being mistreated. You slow things down because you have to guarantee that people are not mistreated, but at the same time, you have to move at a pace where that mistreatment doesn't get any worse and that other people are not mistreated. In other words, you had one person being mistreated, then you slow things down, and as a result of the slowing, other people get mistreated in the process.
Yes.
So it's a balancing act, which is what justice is about. That's why you have the scales. I mean, and sometimes justice is depicted by the use of scales, because that's what it is. It's a balancing process. Everything must be in balance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always by comparison. You want to find out who's being mistreated and who's not. Well, then you say, well, I got to compare this person's benefits with the other person's benefits and how these benefits were acquired, and should they be acquired in this manner. And because everybody is supposed to be constructively benefited.
That's right.
In a correct society.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Okay. Well, that's something that we could feed off of, and obviously from you, it's good information. Mr. Fuller is the author of the fantastic book called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist code, and also the United Independent Compensatory Code System Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. Now, these two publications can be obtained by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And I suggest that you purchase your copies of this book so that you may follow along with what we discuss and learn, because we are all still learning, how to speak, think, and talk and understand in a codified fashion. And that will help us, or help you, because it is independent, but also help us as a collective promote justice. So go to producejustice.com. That is produce, as in produce, justice.com, and you can obtain your copies of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And Mr. Fuller, I've been asked about this for a couple of weeks because I've been trying to get people to understand this. But you have, in the beginning of the book, and also at the beginning of this program, every week you say, if you do not understand white supremacy, then you have racism in parentheses, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. Now, there are people who join or who listen to the program every week, some, newly. Can you explain that, exactly what you mean?
Because all people interact with each other and interact with themselves in what I call the 9 basic major areas, the 9 major areas of people activity. That's economics, which means how you use your time and energy. That's education. Education just means the process of learning everything that you ought to know. Everything that you ought to know, without leaving out anything. Everything that a person ought to know. That you're not educated until you learn everything that you should know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, in order to do what? In order to solve every problem that you encounter. If you can't solve every problem that you encounter, you're not educated. That just goes without saying. Because
yes, sir.
We're here to solve problems. That's the assumption.
Okay.
The people on the planet.
Oh.
So you got 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, the people who believe in mistreating people based on color, who are the white supremacists of this planet, have decided at some time in the past that they will dominate and mistreat people of color in all of these areas of activity. That's their mission. They just made that up and decided that's something that they need to do, and not only that, that everybody on the planet needs to fall in line with it.
Yes, sir.
That the world should be based on mistreatment of people who have color.
Okay.
That all of people's business should be that.
All right.
So now, if everyone doesn't understand that, then you're going to be what? Confused.
Okay.
Because that's what's really going on.
Okay.
That's not something that's in the making. That's something that was done a long time ago. That's a complete deal.
Okay.
That deal has been completed.
All right.
All of the people of color are now subject to that system.
Yes,
in
sir.
other words, any person who has color in his or her skin, black, brown, red, yellow, beige, tan, and every white person is taught, either directly or indirectly, that all they have to do is just look at a person or some creature that resembles a person, and say, is that a person? Say, yes, that is a person. Now, does that person have color in his or her skin? Well, let's see now. Let's look at the person. Yes, I think so. It has a little bit of color, maybe not much. Some people have more than others and all like that. But I see some color in that person's skin. Okay, you're a white person. So therefore, you automatically have a duty, not an option now. This is a duty. This is a part of your code. This is a part of your lifeblood. This is a part of your mission for being. You are supposed to immediately go into a mode or a code or a way of doing things where you are dominating and mistreating that person because he or she has color in his or her skin. And you do this 24/7 in every area of those activities.
Yes, sir. Okay. Let's take a phone call before we go ahead on. Go ahead, caller. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
My question is, good morning, Mr. Fuller. White folks have become more emboldened now since Trump's election to be more rude, to be more aggressive toward people, toward black folks, and in the treatment of them now. Do you go along with what Michelle Obama says, when they go high, when they go low, we go high? Or should we just go, when they go low, we go lower?
Well, the code requires me to say this, and that is, anytime a non-white person makes a suggestion about what to do about racism, all I can do is say you have to refer all questions to the person who made the statement. In this case, it'll be the president's wife, First Lady, Miss Michelle Obama, Mrs. Michelle Obama. She would have to explain what she meant by going high when they go low. Now, I could have my own interpretation.
Do you believe in that concept?
Well, I would have to first of all understand exactly what she meant by that. But I have my own opinion about it, but I wouldn't want to speak for her. See, that's why I'm saying, in counter-racist science, we have to be very precise, particularly when we are repeating something that someone else said, because we may not interpret.
I take it as we ignore their behavior and set a better standard of behavior.
Okay. Well, yes, it could mean that, but she, as far as I know, she didn't explain exactly what she meant. I have heard that she made that expression, but I didn't hear the details of exactly what that meant, step by step, in every area of
being
activity.
More passive toward and not aggressive, like they can treat you the way that's their.
Well, it could be. It could be. Like I said, see, the one thing you don't want in counter-racist science, which is why everything moves so slowly, all down through the years, and there's a reason for that, and that is we don't have clarity and focus. Lots of people are talking, I talk, and all like that, but there are a lot of things that are said that are not explained in detail. And this is what has to be done. That's why I said everything must be precisely codified, so it won't be any mistake that when a person makes a statement, including Neely Fuller, he makes a statement, like I started off this program talking about mistreatment. Well, a person raised a logical question. Well, everybody's got their own idea about what mistreatment is. So what do you mean, Fuller, when you say mistreatment? Just don't throw that word out there and then walk off. Explain in detail what you mean by mistreatment. Right. Because one person's mistreatment, one person might say that the person is being mistreated, and the other person standing next to him might say that, no, that person's not being mistreated. That person is being treated royally. You got a weird idea about what is mistreatment. this is great treatment this person is getting. And the person, him or herself, might look around in amazement and might say, I'm not being mistreated. What are you talking about? I'm being mistreated. I'm not being mistreated. I'm getting over like you wouldn't believe. And see, so different people might have their different ideas about what mistreatment is. So I had to, this morning, explain, hey, this is about comparison with, and I went into detail about it, which is what it's about. Someone once said, the devil is in the details. Well, I don't particularly care for that expression. I say the truth is in the details. And that's what you always want. And you have to go in the details in order to get the truth. Otherwise, we wouldn't even need a court system, because everybody could just walk around saying what justice means and all like that. No, they say you come to court, and we will show you what it means, because we will go into details about this particular case, about this particular shooting. Everybody out there in the street have their opinion about, it should have happened, it shouldn't have happened, it shouldn't have happened this way, or it should have happened this way, or somebody should have done something that they didn't do, or somebody did something that they should not have done. Well, let's come and go into the details and slow everything down, and then everybody has their say about what they think happened or what they have judged happened and what should be done, and then we come to a conclusion maybe after 3 or 4 years, just on one incident, not 10, 12, 15, or 200 incidents, just on one incident. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 years to get to the truth of what happened in 5 minutes.
All righty. Thank you, caller, and thank you, Mr. Fuller. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'd like to share with you, and it does precede our show, and it's called Conversate in the AM. Conversate in the AM with Mr. Kahari and Mr. Brother Ed, and sometimes the righteous Reverend Peterman, going where no show dares to go. You can join the crew as they bring you provocative, stimulating, and controversial news from around the world as well as locally. Conversate in the AM daily at 8? Yeah, at 8 here exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. Okay, I think we have the go-ahead for the phone lines, which are now open, so you can call at 1-877-932-9766. Or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. I will try to get to them. I'm already backed up on emails, but we will try to do the best we can do. Try to limit your questions to just one question so that more can get on. Okay, caller, you are on line number 2. You are on. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, caller. Okay. Line number 2, okay. Line number 2, you are now on. Go ahead with your question.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Box.
Okay.
I had a question for Mr. Fuller. Well, I actually had a question for everybody. I listen to the show every week. When the new one comes out about a week late, and I've checked for the last 2 weeks. I haven't seen anything different. The last show was like 3 weeks ago. The show entitled Education, starting off entitled Education.
Yes, sir.
I hadn't seen it, so I was wondering, had it been canceled, or is there a reason why the new shows haven't been on there for the last 2 weeks?
No. Okay, I can answer that. When we've been having some problems, some technical difficulties that we are now working out, even as we broadcast right now, and thank you for your call, we are still...
I have one more question.
Wait a minute. Yeah, and we're still testing the system to work out all the problems or bugs, in it. So that's why you've heard podcasts, a repeat of the of various shows. So this show that you're hearing now is live. Now, what is your question there?
Okay, my question is, the views from this show, from Mr. Fuller's show, it's possible, but I'm just not buying that. All these shows up to this time and just only a couple thousand views. How is that? I mean, I know that the important things don't get a lot of views, but I just don't see it possible. I was wondering, do y'all think that the views have been tampered with, or I know they're not important as long as people hear them, but I think it should be way higher. I don't see how it's possible.
As far as I know, or I will say this, I don't know. You may be onto something there. All I know is from the Gmails that I get and the communications from around the world, it seems to be very popular.
Right.
There is a brother that lets me know that he feels that shows could be tampered with by other outside forces that Talk Tainment has no control over. I don't know. But as Mr. Fuller always states, you can suspect that it could be the usual suspects that are involved in it, but I can't verify that for sure. All I know is that we broadcast and Mr. Fuller speaks.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. And I listen faithfully, and Mr. Fuller's he's like the most powerful voice that I've heard him all, and it seems like he has the solution. I don't want to hold up any time. I want to let this man speak. So I'm getting out of his way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, Mr. Fuller, yeah, your show is very popular. I'm telling you, we're just loaded. My staff, we're just loaded with Gmails. Let's see if we can get one in here real quickly here. We got about 4 minutes. This is from South Africa. Dalamini says, in South Africa, Mr. Fuller, we face law enforcers of color. It may be a bit different from America, where it's mostly white law enforcers. Black people still find themselves targeted by mostly black law enforcers and the minority white law officers or enforcers. There is a double standard in the way they treat us versus white people. I choose to add not fighting, not fleeing, or fussing with law enforcers in my code, as it has worked for me. I have seen what fussing and fighting with the law enforcer in South Africa will get you if you are a person of color, and that's a whole lot of pain. Mr. Fuller, I appreciate you, and could you comment on this, Mr. Fuller?
Yes. Don't fuss. Don't fight. Don't flee. Why? For a very logical reason. Everything in counter-racist science, counter-racist logic, counter-racist codification is about doing what works. That's all. Very simple. Nothing complicated. You do what works. Fussing, fighting, fleeing in those circumstances have proven it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the favor of the person who's doing the fussing, the fighting, or the fleeing. If that person is being approached by a law enforcement officer, and that person chooses to fuss, fight, or flee. In the system of white supremacy, for a person of color, it does not work. People who have tried it have found that it, for the most part, every now and then you have some exceptions. There are some exceptions to all what you call laws, as they say. That's a cliche saying. Yes, there are some rare exceptions. But in most cases, if you fuss, if you fight, if you flee, right there on the scene, it doesn't work for the person who's doing the fussing, the fighting, and the fleeing from the law enforcement officer. It just doesn't work. So therefore, you don't want to do anything that doesn't work. Counter-racist logic is about always, without exception, doing what works best. Now, sometimes the worst situation, when you do the best thing you can do, it doesn't work very well in your favor, but you did the best that you could do. You always want to do the best thing possible, the best thing that any person can do in 1,000 years in every situation that you encounter. That is what you call counter-racist science. That's what you call compensatory science. That's what you call science, period. Always doing the best possible thing that any person could do. Not just one person, but any person can do in every possible circumstance. That should be the goal of every person on the planet. always doing the most constructive thing. And so, therefore, that would apply. And you apply that not only to being stopped by a law enforcement officer in this system of white supremacy or in any other system. It would apply universally, anywhere, anytime. You want to always do the best possible thing to get what? The best possible result. See, that's what you're aiming for.
Yes, sir.
Not just what's going on at the moment. You want the best possible result out of this ultimately, so that you come out in the best possible situation that anybody could ever come out in.
All righty. Let's do this as we go to commercial. JR, thank you for correcting me today. I mentioned when I said think, speak, and talk, I meant to say, as Mr. Fuller says, think, speak, and act. Thank you, JR, for getting me straight on that. Anyway, talktainmentradio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. Download the talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. We have more of your calls and a bunch of emails that we are going to try to get to, and if you need to correct me, correct me. I can be corrected because I'm still learning. TalkTainmentRadio.com. All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. And you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. He is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. It's simply a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And you can get that book and also the Counter Racist Codified Word Guide, all by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And I highly recommend that if you are a follower of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. and of the program, that you get this book so that you can understand what he is saying. You can look at it, you can read it, review it, go over it. And these are just suggestions, as he will tell you in the book. These are just his suggestions on how to speak, act, and even think. These are just his suggestions. So you need to get a copy of the book and then go from there. No, I don't get any money from this. I'm not compensated from this. I'm not doing this for compensation. I'm doing this because I love you. I love Mr. Fuller, and I love what we are doing. Anyway, let's go to the phone lines. Line number, what are we? Line number one? Okay. Line number one, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Oh, hi, my name is Gregory. I'm calling from Florida, and I would like to say I'm one of Neely Fuller's biggest fans, and I think that he's 100% right about the things that he says, and I see that the codes work with the white world, but not so much with us, and we're working to get better towards that. But what I thought of was the fact that we are living where we have the White House and the Supreme Court, and like all the 9 areas, all the rules have to be passed through the Supreme Court. And that pretty much says white supremacy in itself. I want to know Mr. Fuller's opinion on that in itself.
Mr. Fuller?
Well, if I understand the question, the Supreme Court of the world, and I'm not talking about the 8 justices that are here in the Northwestern Hemisphere and all like that, but if you're talking about the ultimate Supreme Court, not talking about the United States as they call it, the United States Supreme Court. I'm talking about the ultimate Supreme Court among the people of this planet when it comes to color as of this time. Now, the ultimate, the superior court is the creator of the universe. I mean, when the creator of the universe makes a judgment, it pretty well stands. I mean, you know, I haven't seen any evidence of anybody overruling that particular entity, what a lot of people call God, Allah, Jehovah, the Creator, the Great Spirit, but whatever name is called, that's the creator creator of everything that we're looking at. I mean, now, then the second most powerful court, second to that, is the system of white supremacy. That's the Supreme Court, the world Supreme Court, because most of the people's population are people of color, and a minority of people who classify themselves as white, not talking about all white people, but those white people who have chosen to participate in a system called the system of white supremacy, have become the most powerful court in the world in judging people and deciding what every person will do, what they, who will come here, who will go there, how they will think, what they will be doing in all of the areas of activity. If you're a person of color, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. If you're a person of color, you are supposed to come under the jurisdiction of a white person who decides everything about your entire existence on this planet, and that everything that is decided is supposed to be harmful to you by doctrine. That's not an option. Every white person is given that choice. Now, you either get on board with it or you be acting against it, and you will not be showing loyalty to the system of white supremacy if you're a white person. Now, you better get on board with this because there's a lot of benefits for you, and if you don't get on board for you, it's going to be a lot of hurt for you if you're a white person and you are not on board with this system of white supremacy. That is the Supreme Court of the entire world as far as people of color are concerned. Now, we all are what people might call God's children, but as one white supremacist once said, one person I suspect is a white supremacist, I read a statement by him. He said, look at it this way. Here's what. God made the white person to serve God, and God made these black people, even though he didn't use the word black, he used the N word. He said he made them to serve white people. God made white people to serve God, and God made black people to serve white people. And if everybody would just shut up and be quiet and let it play out like that, everything will work out just fine for everybody. Now, that's the white supremacist doctrine. But then I thought about that when I first heard it. And I said, well, it kind of looks like that might be true. It looks that way on the surface, but then it's something that kind of gives that away and gives it another level of thought. If this is decreed by the Creator, if the Creator came up with this idea and told people that everybody should fall in line behind it and that there shouldn't be any argument about it, then why is it necessary for white people to tell all of these lies? Because the whole thing, you can't hold together the system of white supremacy the way it's being practiced without saying things that are not true and doing it consistently almost every day, making promises that you don't keep and all this type of thing. Is it necessary to do that? I mean, are we supposed to have a creator that would put that type of thing out? I don't think so. So I think this is something that's made up. That's the conclusion I came to when I tried to approach it scientifically. I could say this could be true, that the white people of this planet are supposed to just tell black people what to do. And if black people just do it without question and fall in line behind it and say, because of my color, this is the way it is, and I am ordained to do it, and white people are ordained to do what they're doing, and nobody should make any fuss about it, then everything will work out fine. But everything is not working out fine because so many lies are being told and so many people are being harmed. So that's the giveaway. And I don't think that this is what the Creator had in mind. I think this is what some white person had in mind when they invented something called the system of white supremacy. And that's why I started writing my book the way that I wrote it.
Okay.
And came up
Could
with
I
the
ask you a
concept.
final question regarding that second part of what you talked about?
I'm sorry,
Or-
our phone lines are so jammed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, but thank you for
so
your
much.
call.
It's a great pleasure talking to you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Fuller.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready for the okay, line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead.
Good morning. Am I on the air?
Yes?
Mr. Fuller, I'd just like to say that, I saw Dr. Cress Wilson during July of 2015, and she said some very interesting things. And I truly feel that if white people are trying to get their fun, glory, and ego massaged the way they're doing, it's a signal that this is just a symptom of some deep underlying psychological problems that they have. I really believe that at a conscious and a subconscious level, they have a lot of fears, insecurities about themselves that they're projecting out on people around them. And because they project it out, it's disguising the fact that they really have a lot of fears, insecurities about themselves. Now, Dr. Cress Wilson says they're in fear of genetic annihilation. Some people feel like they're in fear of retaliation for all the things that they've done, the fear that they won't be able to exploit people the way they used to. But all this is stemming back to the fact of fears, insecurities about themselves. And I thought it was interesting. One of the brothers that was at the function, he asked Dr. Cress Wilson, why doesn't white people just go ahead and kill us all off? She said, because they need someone to look down upon. And you say, well, why would they need somebody to look down? And once again, we're getting right back to the same issue again.
So what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
I best basically say, Mr. Fuller, you're doing a good job. Please keep it up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Fuller, you want to comment on that?
Well, that's the position that I have taken. Dr. Wilson dealt with the genetics and the fear of genetic annihilation.
Correct.
And that could be correct. I mean, it's got to be a reason. So, I didn't work on that. She worked on that part. I worked on the part of what to do about it.
Yes, sir.
So I said, well, regardless of how so my position is, regardless of how it got started, we sit down and we talk with white people, first of all, and try to find out what's your greatest fear.
Yes.
What are you afraid of? Okay? Now, if they say, hey, we get to mix in our blood with you black people, we will be annihilated. There won't be any more white people. So what we're talking about is preservation of a species. So I'm saying if black people find this out and we really come to that conclusion after sitting down, let's just fast forward this right this morning. I mean, let's come to the table on this issue right this morning. If that is the fear, okay, what do we do now since we are all, as Rodney King said, stuck here on this planet? All right. And it comes down to one basic question. Does everybody here believe in preservation of a species? Or do we have some species of people who should disappear? That's the issue. Let's make that real clear. And that should be clear in everybody's mind. Every preacher, every school teacher, every sociologist, every psychologist, every psychiatrist, every politician should be on board if that is the fear. If that is the fear, let's not talk about it in whispers. Let's put this right on the center of the table because we want to get right to the nerve center of what this problem is. And if that's the nerve center, let's talk about it.
All right.
And not only talk about it, let's come up with a solution because I, for one, will stand up and immediately say, I believe in preservation of species. In years before, in making counter-racist talks, I've said, I don't particularly care for roaches. I really don't. I have a thing about roaches, all right? But I would be the last person on the planet to say that all roaches should be exterminated. That, we exterminate roaches. I mean, you go into the store and you buy stuff to get rid of roaches. Roaches are a real nuisance and can be a real health hazard, okay? And we all know that. But I would be the last person to say exterminate all of the roaches. Why? Because roaches were created, and the creator of this universe put something in everything that may be of some benefit. It's just a matter of context. I mean, you can say that birds can be a nuisance. And at one time, people were talking about getting rid of birds. I understand in China that happened during a period because the birds were eating up the grain. But then they found out that these birds that they were getting rid of had other benefits. So therefore, they had to call off that program.
Yes, sir.
So you have to be real careful about talking about genetic extermination
Yes, sir.
of anything that you did not create.
Okay. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We really don't have a topic today, except that we are answering phone calls and Gmails that we get. You can call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, today is December the 7th, 2016. But years ago, December the 7th, 1941, I believe it was, there was an event that happened, and you were alive then. And what are your recollections on this particular date?
I was around 13 years old, and when I heard that there was an attack by Japanese armed forces and naval forces and planes at a place called Pearl Harbor, and like many people at that time, I said, Pearl Harbor? Where's Pearl Harbor? And that was a standard question. Where is Pearl Harbor? And somebody said, it's over yonder someplace, over on the other side of the world, whatnot. And I said, well, who are the Japanese? I mean, and what? I thought, everybody's talking about the Germans and Italy and Adolf Hitler. And so what's this thing about the Japanese? And they said, that, well, hey, somebody else has joined in, and they're called Japanese. And they sank some ships at Pearl Harbor, and now we're really into this thing. I mean, with both feet. And that they're on the move and whatnot. And they have joined up with this fella Adolf Hitler in Europe. I mean, and so I said, oh, okay. So I'm just 13 years old. So I'm going to school, and we're studying how to recognize Japanese aircraft, the Mitsubishi Zero, they call it, a fighter, and the Stuka dive bomber that the Germans had, Junkers 87. I remember some of them even today. It was so ingrained in us. We had to learn how to recognize in our segregated school these silhouettes of aircraft, because they said these are the type of aircraft that might be flying over your town in a few weeks. So you got to be able to recognize them and tell the difference between friendly aircraft and enemy aircraft. The Messerschmitt 109, that's a German plane. I mean, a excellent fighter plane and whatnot, and how many cannon it had on it, and how many machine guns, and what the crew was, a crew of one, and whether or not it was a mid-wing aircraft or a low-wing aircraft, because you have to be telling when it's just flashing by. I mean, because you might not see the insignia on it, but you have to, and everybody's going to have to learn this. And I'm in my little colored school, and we are down there in the basement, and I'm looking at these silhouettes and trying to recognize these aircraft. And so I'm saying, hey, they're telling us that these are the enemy. And I noticed, now here's what, as the events began to evolve in what they call World War II, I noticed that they would call the Japanese, they'd have signs on the wall saying the little slant-eyed, monkeys and all like that, kill them. Little slant-eyed monkeys. Well, I had heard that black people had been called monkeys too, all right? And I'm saying, wait a minute. They're not saying anything about how Germans look. And, and Hitler has been stomping all over everybody for some time now. But this thing just started with the Japanese, and they're calling them little yellow bastards. I mean, and that's a word that wasn't just thrown around in those days, in the 1940s. That was what you call profane language, calling somebody a bastard. But you would see it on a sign, on a telephone post. Kill the little slant-eyed bastards. Kill the little, and sometimes they'd say the little brown or the little yellow bastards. But they didn't say anything about the skin color of the white people, the Germans, the SS, Hitler's finest. And I immediately said, oh, this is a racial thing too. And I was just 13 or 14 years old.
Yes, sir.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So that racism thing, it's there all the time, all the time.
Okay.
Even when it looks like it's not.
Okay. Let me say this, for those who are having problems with the program going in and out, refresh your system so that the program can come back on. That's what I was told to tell you. Refresh your system. Let's go to the phone lines before I go to this Gmail. What line are we on here? Line number 1? Okay. Line number 1. What is your question for Mr. Fuller, please?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. My question is regarding page number 23 in the United Independent Compensatory Code.
Under the Revised Expanded Edition?
Yes.
Okay.
What is meant by expanding white supremacy? It's the second, it's the third paragraph under what is meant by expanding white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I have is, at the beginning of the third paragraph, it tells us that,
Wait a minute. I can't hear you now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it tells me that the expansion of white supremacy also means that the longer white supremacy is maintained. And it gets down and tells me what the maintenance of white supremacy is. And I guess the question that I have is, it says, the thinking of non-white people is dominated by people who practice white supremacy. And these thoughts cause non-white people to function in greater support of white supremacy. The effects of white supremacy are expanded. So that means, okay, if I don't learn the compensatory code, I guess my question is, if I don't learn the compensatory code, or if I don't think, speak, and act during all hours of the day, does that mean I am helping to expand white supremacy?
Interesting question. Mr. Fuller?
Oh, anytime the victims of racism are not effectively fighting to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, because that's the first initial basic goal, then we are complicit in supporting white supremacy.
Yes.
So the best analogy that I have made is that we were all born in prison. It's not like they're looking for us to capture us and put us under their authority. That's a done deal.
Yeah.
We were born in the prison. We were born prisoners of war. Right. We are already in the prison. So if you're already in a prison, if you're born in a prison, you are supporting the prison system simply by being a prisoner in a prisoner system. So, that's a done deal. There's no way to escape that. That's why black people should get away from this thing of trying to figure out who the Uncle Tom of the month is.
Right. Got it.
Well, we should get rid of that altogether.
Exactly.
Everybody is Tomming.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You Tomming when you ask for a job. You Tom when you ask for a house. You Tom when you ask for a handout of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
You Tom when you ask for education. You are begging people who have captured you. They don't deny that. I mean, it's right in your face. We are captives. We are prisoners of war. The war has no truce has ever been declared worldwide about this racial thing. We've never had not to say anything about an end to the war, we've never even had a truce being declared worldwide where everybody agreed that there's now a truce, that there's no more hostilities, that we're strictly in a negotiative mode. That's what a truce is. That no more hostilities, nobody's mad at nobody. We're in a talking stage now. That nobody's being hurt. no shooting is going on. No, the shooting is going on. The mistreatment is going on. So the war has never stopped.
Never.
All right? And we are all prisoners of war. If you're a person of color anywhere on this planet, you are a prisoner of the system of white supremacy, automatically. So therefore, as a prisoner, you are supporting the system of white supremacy simply because you are in the prison. You're not outside the prison. Prisoners support the prison system.
Okay.
So
all righty.
Before I go. Okay, now if we're in the revision stage of white supremacy, that's what stage that the world is in, since they're the dominant power on the planet. And in the revision stage, you stated that deceit is what they are gunning for. They are gunning for. They don't have to use direct violence anymore. They're looking for where they can just use deceit. And from what you know and from what I know, is working. And what I have gathered in my study, that the entertainment area of people activity is the way that they are capturing our youth. And in the revision stage, you state that they will put certain things on as certain physical items, as I forget the wording that you use, as to make the non-white people chase after that. They would use stuff like my example was shoes, and cheap shoes that they sell to us for $300. And so I guess my question is, in the revision stage, because we know that they're using deceit, they want to get us to where we're all accepting of it. And I hear that in the speech of black people all the time.
Brother, I'm going to have to go because we're getting ready to go to the second hour. My apologies to the sister that I wouldn't let ask the another question. Please, when you call in, please. I know you want to, but please just ask one question so many can get on. And then I don't get in trouble, because if I let one do it, then I have to let everybody else do it. So just ask one question. Anyway, TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest, and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All righty, welcome back to the second hour of Talktainment Radio's program, The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. I'm your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and of course you are in touch with the world's greatest radio. That is TalkTainmentRadio.com, and this is radio the way it should be heard. If you are having problems in receiving the program, I am told that if you get that error message 503, I'm told to hit the refresh button, and the program should come up. It should come up. Hopefully that will rectify the situation here. Shout out to Dr. Ronza Nash, who is listening, I believe, in Arizona, a schoolmate of mine. Wanted to call into the show, and the phone lines are now open, which you can do by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Chances are your Gmail will not be read on this program, in that we have so many and we are backed up. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. It's a compensatory counter-racist code. You need to get the book to understand how to use this code to think, to speak, and to act for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. These are his thoughts. And Mr. Fuller, where can one obtain a copy of this book?
Just go to producejustice.com. Just that simple. Those two words, plus .com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook, and that's the revised expanded edition that came out this year. That's updated from the 1984 edition. And also there's an additional book, a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide. It's not a dictionary. It's just a basic word guide, and I tried to crowd as many words in it as I possibly could. Definitely couldn't make it as big as I would like to, because it would just be too cumbersome to carry around. But that's why I call it a word guide, and I just picked out certain words or certain expressions that I think people should pay attention to, and about how to use words, and more than anything, what questions to ask about words when other people use it in the English language. These are English language words. I'm saying this for the benefit of people in other places. I don't have it in French or in any tribal languages or anything like that. Hopefully, maybe one day that could happen. If this problem keeps dragging on. But just with the use of a very popular language, very dominant language, you might say in a lot of places, the English language, I would like to see this whole problem solved through counter-racist language more than anything, and the action that also goes behind the language, so that other people wouldn't even have to bother with it. People who speak other languages, black people and non-white people who speak French or German or Norwegian or some tribal language. But I just have it in the English language. But you can go and get both books by going to producejustice.com.
Okay. All righty. All right, let's go to the Gmails. Phone lines are now open, 1-877-932-9766. This comes from Black Magic. He says, I'm interested in what Mr. Fuller thinks about Minister Farrakhan. If he would prefer not to comment, then that's fine. It's all VGQ. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, that comes under VGQ, Victims Guarantee Qualification. The code requires that if I am asked about any other victim of racism, fellow prisoner, prisoner of war, prisoner of the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who oppose to it, and primarily those who are the victims of it, I have duty bound. That's what I mean by having a code, that I cannot make any critical remark against any other victim of racism's remarks about how to handle racism. I can only express what my views are, but I am not qualified to make any critical remark about what some other non-white person says about racism, regardless of what it is. I'm simply not qualified to do that. I'm a fellow prisoner. All prisoners of war are equal in this war. The war between those who believe in racism and those who don't. And we are already the prisoners of that war, people who are classified as non-white worldwide. So without even addressing the individual person, in this case, Minister Farrakhan was mentioned, I cannot say anything against anything that he says. I can only refer to one thing, and I'm required to say this. He said what he said, even without checking to see what he said. According to the code, what I've written and put into the book, the only thing I can say, if someone comes to me, for example, and says, What do you think about what Minister Farrakhan said the other day, Fuller? What do you have to say about that? I say about Minister Farrakhan, what he said was what he said. Now, if you want any elaboration on what he said, you have to check with him. Don't check with me.
Okay. All righty. 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call. This comes from, I can't pronounce that name, so I'm not even going to try because I will mess it up. But anyway, it says, Mr. Fuller, my comment this morning that'll come under VGQ is to the regular listeners, first-time listeners, and all others who may hear this. Donald Trump rhetorically asked black voters, what the hell do you have to lose by voting for him? And to those out there listening, I'll flip it and ask, what the hell do you have to lose by choosing to read and implement the principles from the code into your daily lives? I challenge those listening to pose similar questions to members of your family as well as your friends who are still distraught after the election results and believe that their old methods of dealing with racism, white supremacy, are still effective. I say, what better time than now, with the White House and large parts of the federal government about to begin operating under a blatantly white supremacist regime. We as black people in this country, I feel, must get equipped with the tools from this book and what we hear Mr. Fuller teach upon weekly in order to navigate through these next 4 years and beyond. It's a must. I thank you for taking my comments this morning and continue with the great work that you do. This is from Brother Jay. Mr. Fuller?
Well, here again, VGQ. If that's the person who wrote that, if that person is classified as non-white, then they're entitled to say whatever they said. So we heard what was said. So my comment is, he said what he said.
Okay.
That's universal. That's as far as I can go. He said what he said. And people can listen to what he said and evaluate it on their own.
Okay.
Everything in counter-racist science is addressed to the individual person.
That's right. Okay. All right. Let's go to the phone lines. What line are we on? Line number 1? Okay. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Okay, my name is Anthony. I'm from Milledgeville, Georgia. And I wanted to ask, I know I have 2 minutes now. I know I have to be quick.
Yeah, can you speak up too? Speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the, since we're in the refinement stage of white supremacy, and they are using the tactic of deceit. We know that they want to use deceit instead of direct force, as Mr. Fuller stated on page 24, excuse me, of his book. And I wanted to ask, it says non-white people of the known universe have been known to use so-called status symbols in the refinement stage, a form of flattery to get non-white people to, I guess, to be more accepting of white supremacy. So my question is, if entertainment is how they are attacking our youth, that's the area of people activity that has the most influence on the youth, is entertainment. And so I wanted to ask Mr. Fuller, how do we change that? How do we change music? Do we have to single out these artists as just being constructive and non-constructive, since they are the ones, white supremacists have set it up where they're the ones that are parenting our children?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
All problems are solved through what?
Questions and
answers. Just like a question was just asked. How do we do this? How do we address this thing about entertainment and what to do about it as far as what the white supremacists are doing when it comes to black people or people of color and the area called, the third area of activity called entertainment. What is entertainment? Entertainment is just whatever you're doing that you enjoy. Basically, that's what entertainment is. Real simple. If you are singing and dancing and you're enjoying it, that's entertainment. If you are painting a garage and you're enjoying painting the garage, even though a lot of people would call that work, but you are enjoying doing it, then you're being entertained by painting the garage. And so it comes down to one thing: constructive, non-constructive. That's what questions and answers all about. Is it constructive? This is a question. Is this thing, this song that's being sung, does it have a constructive effect when people listen to it? Does it help people to think constructively? Or does it help a person to think and act and speak non-constructively? That's the only criteria when it comes to entertainment. You just don't say, well, I think that that's non-constructive. Or I think, no, take a look at it, listen to it, and then come to your own conclusion about what it makes you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does it make you want to go out and shoot somebody when you listen to it? Okay, who is the somebody you're going to shoot? Because there are, even in armies, as far back as I can remember, they had what you call, well, buglers, or they have an army band. Now, what's an army band for? All right, they say, well, it entertains the soldiers. Okay, but now you entertain the soldiers in order to do what? What is that bugler for? That fella that they have on the old-fashioned battlefields. I mean, they had what they call the bugler. Bugler, right? And he would get on a horse, and he usually was a male. He got on a horse, and he went ahead or along with someone who was carrying what they call a flag, and the bugler was right alongside or somewhere near and blowing the bugle. Well, is this bugler an entertainer? Well, yes. And what is the bugler entertaining for? See, because, you know, you're listening to the sound of the bugle. Well, when they hear that, those sounds, I mean, that sounds like the cavalry charge. And is this the cavalry? Yes, this is the cavalry. What is the cavalry doing? It is charging. Cavalry means people on horseback who are soldiers, and they are going toward the enemy. And by listening to that bugler, now the person is all charged up, you might say. The person, the soldier with the rifle, he doesn't have a bugle, but he has a rifle, and he's listening to the bugle. And when he hears that sound of the bugle, he's inspired. See, here's where the doing part comes. He's inspired to do what? To do some killing.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
All righty.
Now, we have the same thing sometimes among black people where we make certain songs where after we listen to those songs, we come out of the dance hall and we start what? We start putting a clip into our 9mm and start thinking about killing somebody based on just what we just heard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for your call, caller. Thank you very much. All righty.
Thank you.
All righty. Talktainment Radio is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'd like to share with you, and I shared it in the first hour, and it's called Conversate in the AM. Conversate in the AM with Kahari and Mr. Brother Ed, and sometimes the righteous Reverend Peterman, going where no show dares to go. Join the crew as they bring you provocative, stimulating, and controversial news from around the world as well as locally. Conversate in the AM, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, and that is radio the way it should be heard. Okay, my name is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can 1-877-932-9766 or Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Let's go to the Gmails, and let's go to South Africa. Brother Malangu says this, Mr. Fuller. My name is Brother Mangu from South Africa. Let me first start by thanking you for the enlightening program that you present. I want to pick up on the last point you made a couple of weeks ago about blacks in particular always pushing aside white supremacy system as a source of most of our social problems when discussing issues. Often when I hold discussions with other blacks and I mention the term white supremacy system, I often get pushed aside and get a response like, we understand there is white supremacy, but let's get to the real issue, end of quote. For instance, we are discussing recent student protests for free and decolonized system of education. Mr. Fuller, how can one, in fact, emphasize / clarify to particularly blacks and make them see that white supremacy system as a source of most of our social problems and injustices, since it makes it harder to point out constructive solutions even when the solutions are right in front of our eyes? Many thanks.
Well, the process is, according to the code, never talk about anything that the person that you're talking to doesn't want to talk about. Always talk about what the person wants to talk about, even if you contribute to the talk by just going silent and listening. And they will talk about, usually people talk about things that they are interested in. They don't want to talk about things that they are not interested in. So when you try to force them to talk about something that they have no interest in or don't believe in, then that's an uphill fight. So you don't want to do that. That's not scientific. According to the code, what you do is just simply ask questions. Here again, how do you solve problems? Through the process of questions and answers. So you ask the person, now, are you willing to have a discussion? And the person says yes. Say, okay, what do you want to discuss? And just listen to the person.
Okay.
Listen to whatever it is that they want to say. And listen carefully.
Yes.
And just gradually, little by little, this is the way I have found that it usually works. The person who says that he or she doesn't want to talk about racism, I don't talk about racism. I'll say, oh, you don't want to talk about racism? Okay, what do you want to talk about? And so let the person lead you, lead the conversation.
Yes,
People
sir.
usually like to lead the conversation anyway.
Yes, sir.
All right? And so you let them lead it. Because in a system of racism, I have found that the conversation is going to lead to race anyway. But let the person who is doing the talking, and for sure, let the person who is saying, I don't talk about racism, let that person talk about racism. Because if they talk long enough, that's exactly where they're going to be talking.
Absolutely.
If it's a person of color, if it's a black person in the system of white supremacy, you will find, just from experiment, it might take about an hour to get there, but sooner or later that black person will say, well, the reason I didn't get the job is on account of, I think they ganged up on me. And you'll say, wait a minute, they meaning who? And he'll say, well, as it just happened, it just turned out. I mean, it was these black people, that got in the way and whatnot. Did you say black people? Yeah, it was black people that did it and whatnot. Got in the way of what? Got in the way of me getting the job or staying on the job. You say, well, wait a minute. Who was it that's telling these black people to do this? Well, it was this white boss. Here the person has just said it. See, they tripped themselves up. They said they didn't want to talk about race. Now they're talking about race. See, there's no way to escape it. That's the point that I want to make to the entire audience. But let them lead you there. You don't lead them there. Let them lead you there. If they keep talking That's where it's going because there's nowhere else for it to go. We're in a system of white supremacy, and every road will lead to a discussion about racism. I don't care how it starts off.
Okay. Before we go to the phone lines, quickly, this is a Gmail. It says, you played a tape of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's prediction on Trump's win of the presidency. I would like the name of the tape and where I can purchase it. Well, I don't know if you can purchase it, but one of our listeners sent that to me, and it was simply called Dr. Francis Cress Welsing predicts Donald Trump's victory. And that was sent to me, found on YouTube. So if you go under Dr. Francis Cress Welsing predicts Donald Trump's victory on YouTube, you should be able to find it. One of our listeners, and I'm going to put him on my team, one of our listeners sent that to me, and then we were able to play it, and it was been getting a lot of responses to that. So that's good. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. What line are we on? Line number one? Line number one. You're there. Good morning, and what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Hello?
You're on, sir.
Yes, okay, Mr. Bobby. This is Ross Wadada from San Francisco. I'd like to ask Mr. Fuller, there's a simple question, like, are those whites that are call themselves liberal, are they undercover racists? Because they seem to have get nothing done to help black people. And they benefit from most of the programs themselves, but they consider themselves liberals. So my question is, are they undercover racists?
Mr. Fuller?
Well, the code, according to what I have written, and here again, I want to emphasize, what I have written doesn't necessarily have to be true, but you can examine it for yourself. And what I have written in codification is that in a system of white supremacy, which is what we have, I've already concluded that any white person who is able, and underline the word able, to be a white supremacist probably is one. Underline probably. I'm not saying that any white person who is able to be a racist is one, but I'm saying if you are a victim of racism, or if you're a person of color in a system of white supremacy, you have a duty to suspect that any white person who is able, has to be able now, to be a racist, probably is one. Unquote. That is rock solid. That doesn't change. As long as the system of white supremacy exists, that stays in place. And it applies in every situation all the time. If the person is able, and the person is classified as white, and the person is able to practice racism, the person probably is one. And do you ever call that person a racist? No. But you can say that you suspect that the person could be one. Why? Because somebody's got to be a racist in a system of white supremacy. And since you don't have a master list of who is and who isn't, any white person who is able to be a racist should be suspected of probably being one. End of story.
Okay. Thank you very much for your call, caller. All righty. Do we have time for one more? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, caller. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Quickly.
Hi. I want to ask you, Mr. Bobby, when will you be taking donations for the show next year so I can start getting ready to help keep this program on?
I'm getting the signal now. You could do it now.
Okay, because last year I told you I had sent you $100 and I was going to send you $200.
Oh, okay.
And before I could send you the $200, you said you had all the donations you needed.
Well, guess what? They're giving me the sign now. They say, yeah, send it in.
Okay,
so
Mr. Bobby,
yes,
you
ma'am.
make sure you tell us the address and stuff like that on the air.
Okay.
Who to make it out to. And as far as your email, spell it out, because different ways of spelling Bobby, and then you say number 7. We don't know if it's number 7
Yeah.
or word 7.
Okay, well,
clarify all that.
Okay, well, I'll have the first part of that information available to you hopefully next week. But if you want to Gmail me, it's the actual numeral 7, then Mr. Bobby, Bobby, at gmail.com. That's a good question. I never thought about that, but yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, we want to keep this going. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Every show should get up to 3 hours.
Hey, you never know. Thank you for your call, and thank you for your donation. Thank you very much. All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All righty, yeah. It's anybody in now. By the way, Mr. Fuller and myself are not compensated from talktainmentradio.com, for this. So all your donations they go directly to the program, and they are tax deductible. No, we do not get a salary from that. And then I don't get a salary or any compensation for the promotion of Mr. Fuller's book. Even if he offered, I still wouldn't, because this is my thing, to be able to use the instrument that the Creator has given me to be able to work with Mr. Fuller to present the program with him, and judging by the calls and by the response that I've been getting from around the world, the program is effective. One of the people called in or wrote me to let me know just how effective that is. So, Mr. Fuller, what you have written is effective for a lot of people. I'm looking at a bunch of Gmails. Yeah, I'm killing a little bit of time before we go to the break. Because they really don't want me to do that much talking, they being the people, and I understand that they want to hear you. But by all these Gmails that I have here, and hopefully we can get to more than what we have, they love this program. It's very informative, and people get a chance to call in and express or say what's on their mind. You can do that, and make sure you do that after the break at 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at 7MrBobby at gmail.com. That's the numeral 7. Mr. Bobby, Bobby at gmail.com, and I'll get that. Anyway, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Okay, TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. And you can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby, at gmail.com. And we will try to get that information available to you. Someone in the last segment called and wanted to know about donations. Well, I understand you can go to our website, go to where it says the PayPal. There's a function button there. Hit that, and it says sponsor, and you can make that donation. As a matter of fact, you can make that donation at any time, is what I am told. So there you go. Don't have to wait. You can do it now. Okay, before we go to the Gmails, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1, is that what it is? Okay. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yes, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller, good morning. I haven't talked to you in a little while there. Yes, Mr. Fuller, what will be the outcome of this situation in North Dakota with the so-called Native American Indians and the white supremacists? Will that gas pipeline go through there? And they're worried about it possibly leaking into their water supply, which includes that Missouri River area and some reservoir up there. And they're putting up a good fight, but what do you think will be the outcome of this?
Mr. Fuller?
I don't know. The outcome will be the outcome. We are all prisoners of war. So, if the white supremacists decide that they're going to run that pipeline, they will most likely run the pipeline. Or if they decide, we're going to run a pipeline, but we want to, but it's stirring up too much trouble. So we'll do something else, maybe someplace else later on, but we won't do that then. If the white supremacists make that decision. Now, I'm not talking about the white people who are not white supremacists, but ultimately the white supremacists will make the decision And they may make the decision that, you know what, we don't have to pay any attention to a bunch of Indians because we never have paid any attention to a bunch of Indians. So we're going to run that pipeline. End of story. And they can get out there and have their war dances all they want to. And they may shoot at a few people and all like that, and we'll know how to handle that because we'll handle that the way we've always handled it, with great success. I mean, you know, the Indians have never been able to be very successful against us. I mean, even with all of their various prayers and gods and whatnot, they have never been a match for us white supremacists. So we'll humor them along for a while and do what we usually do. Now, that may be the outcome. But then on the other hand, the white supremacists may decide, well, it's really not that important to us. And so we'll just run the pipeline someplace else and let them have their clean water for a little while anyway.
Okay.
Thank you, caller. Anyway, but the decision will ultimately be made by somebody who believes in white supremacy.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for your call, caller. This is from Miss Smith in the Mile High. She says, Mr. Fuller said that we should suspect all whites of being white supremacists until individually they prove that they are not. Mr. Fuller, how do they individually prove this to us? What should we look for ongoing?
Oh, you have to prove it to each individual. It's a rough job. If I was a white person, I would say, with that kind of prescription, like I've laid out, that's an extremely difficult thing to do. But that's actually the setup that the white supremacists set up for all of us. I mean, it's not personal, it's business. I mean, they set up a system that's extremely difficult to solve. I mean, they did it that way. They intended for it to be difficult to solve because to them, it wasn't a problem. It was the solution to all of the problems of the people of the entire world. Have a system of racism and let it run forever. A system of what? Dominating and mistreating people based on color. We're not thinking about any solution because we don't see it as a problem. So at some point, many white people and just about all non-white people say that's a serious problem. That's a type of world government that never should have been thought of in the first place. But now you got to take it apart. And so that means that a real burden is on white people who are sincere about taking it apart. So every white person now has to prove to each and every non-white person that he or she is not a racist. Now, what does the code require me to do? Say, for example, I like to give examples so that people get clarity. If a black person brings a white person to me and say, this is Mr. Brown, or this is Sarah Owens, or Sarah Crawford, or whatever, and she's white, or he's white, and I've known him or her all of my life, and they don't have, to use a cliche expression, a racist bone in their body. And I'm black, and I know this, and I'm telling, the person is telling me this, this black person is telling me this, that this white person that they're standing beside doesn't have a racist bone in his or her body. The code requires me to say, okay, this white person has proven it to you that he or she is not racist. But now they got to start all over again from scratch and prove it to me. Because I am duty-bound not to take your word for it. Why? Because of the system of white supremacy says what? That the white supremacists are the most deceitful people that the world has ever seen. So you may be fooled. So I can't let myself be fooled just because you got fooled. So this white person who you say doesn't have a racist bone in his or her body, they have proven that to you. But now they got to start all over again. It might take them 50 years, or it might take them 5 months, or it may take them 2 hours. But they got to prove it to me. I have to be convinced individually because the code does not allow me to take your word for it, even though you're black just like me. I can't take your word for that. Why? Because the person may have really put a job on you of deception. That's the way it's done. It ain't personal, it's business.
Okay. Before we move on to the next statement, got something from AOL. If this is true, it says Donald Trump named Time Person of the Year. Wow. How about that? Anyway, moving right along, Andrew says this, Mr. Fuller. He says, Mr. Fuller, why do you suggest on page 35 of the new revised expanded textbook workbook that non-white people, quote, inform everybody of any acts of sexual intercourse, sexual play, so-called homosex or lesbianism that you or they have ever engaged in with a white person during the existence of white supremacy, end of quote. How do you suggest one does that? Signed, Victor.
You don't keep that a secret. That's never supposed to be a secret. Any type of sexual activity between a white person and a non-white person in the system of white supremacy is supposed to be known by everybody the minute that it happens. That's supposed to be revealed.
He says,
Why?
how do you suggest one do that?
Oh, I'm saying it shouldn't be kept secret. I'm just saying you don't keep that a secret. See, because why there's a scientific counter-racist reason for that. It helps the system of white supremacy become stronger. See, if we're going to have any kind of sexual activity between white people and non-white people, everybody should know about that sexual activity if we're going to solve this problem. Because the white supremacists are always claiming that they are nervous about sexuality where non-white people are concerned. Well, now, what gets rid of nervousness? Nervousness comes from confusion, all right? So what is the antidote for confusion? Information. Information is the antidote for all confusion. So you put that information out there. You should volunteer to do it. Might take a little nerve to do it and all like that, but I mean any type of sexual interaction or so-called homosexual interaction should not be kept secret. If it's taken place between anybody who is white and non-white, every act should be known by everybody. Why? So that you have clarity about what's going on this planet.
Okay. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. Mr. Bobby is, or Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y. 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com, and I will try to read your letters. Let's go to the phone lines, and, okay, line number what? Line number 1? Okay, line number 1, you are there. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, and good morning to you and good brother Fuller. I say, if you do not understand white supremacy as racism, if you do not understand racism as white supremacy, what it is and how it operates, everything you think you understand will only confuse you. Because the people who don't understand white supremacy, they think they understand it, but they really do not. Now, just as many slaves do not understand the system of white supremacy, they also do not understand systematic genocide, which we have been under. And they also do not understand the extermination process that is full-blown right now, what they are taking us to. That's why you're seeing all this police killing and killing on film of. They're showing the world that our life has no value and that we should be done away with. This is what this is all about. And the world is going to accept it because these people run the world. All other countries are just concerned with their little piece of the rock. They're not going to be concerned with black people's lives here. That's why nobody's saying nothing. The Pope don't say nothing. Black politicians. You don't even think we got any black politician in Washington. We about to be exterminated. These people ain't saying nothing. They ain't calling no meeting. They not going to the UN about it or nothing. This is a very, very serious situation we're in.
Okay, bro.
And as a people, we better wake up because these people are not only white supremacy, they are mentally ill. Now, when Mr. Fuller ever talked about that, these people are mentally ill.
Okay.
They are psychopaths.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Fuller, you comment on that?
Well, he only asked one question, and that is whether or not I talk about mental illness. Yes. Anything, any people who are doing anything at any time, at any moment of the day, anywhere on the planet, that shouldn't be done, that reveals mental illness right there. Because either something is constructive or something is non-constructive. And if anybody anywhere is doing anything that is non-constructive, that is a sign of, quote, unquote, mental illness.
Okay.
So the entire system of white supremacy breeds what? Massive mental illness.
All right.
So all of us are what? Mentally ill.
Okay. This comes from Mr. Lewis. He says this, Hotep, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I often hear Mr. Fuller ask about movies and lessons that we could learn from them. The most recent movie that I think explains the system of racist white supremacy the best is The Matrix. This movie literally explains the system in a way that would make sense to a 5-year-old if one really pays attention to it. All the agents are white men wearing suits. Most of the people living in Zion are mostly non-white, and they can learn anything in a matter of seconds while they're plugged into the Matrix. Please ask Mr. Fuller if he has ever seen these movies. And if not, I highly recommend that he watch all three. P.S. The movie was written by an African black woman. Mr. Fuller?
I have heard that. I have heard that down through the years. I have never seen the movie, even though I do have a copy of the movie.
Oh, okay.
I have never seen it. But because, and this is what the codified procedure is, many people have called and told me that that is a must-see movie in order to really understand in a simple way what racism is really all about. Without them even in the movie, I understand, mentioning anything about racism. But it teaches you the lessons that are fundamentally essential in a entertaining way. And I haven't seen the movie, but since so many people have recommended that everybody should see that movie called The Matrix, then I say, hey, everybody should. Since so many people are saying that it is the key to many things that will help them to understand a lot of things better.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean, so I'll get around to seeing it because I can get lessons out of every movie, really.
Right. Okay.
Because I look for the lessons. Anytime I look for a movie, I look for the lessons.
Yes, sir.
Some movies have more lessons than others.
Okay. Moving on to the Gmail. This comes from Harry. He simply says this. Your friends will believe in your potential. Your enemies will make you live up to it. Comes from Tim Fargo. I don't know who that is. He says, in closing, white supremacy exists within the language of promoting excellence to those who are exposed to knowledge and destroying those who are prided in staying within darkness. Now, that one, I believe, comes from him, Mr. McRae. Anyway, he says, VGQ just purchased another copy of the textbook, and thank you, Mr. Fuller. Okay. All right. I guess he didn't have a question in there, just a couple of comments, but thank you, Harry. Let me see here. How about this one? Okay, let me get it up here. Got me kind of quickly. Oh, no, I don't want to do that one. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Oh, okay. Greetings, Mr. Bobby. Of course, he was speaking about there was a no-show last week. He says, this may be lengthy, but I think a lesson to be learned from my experience on 12/5 at the Royal Federal Building. I don't know if that's in Washington or not. What would be the best codified response to this? He says, I entered a federal building with my government-issued ID to get lunch from the cafeteria I frequent most days. On a recent chilly day, I wore a Public Enemy jacket with their logo on the back of the jacket. Logo is the view of crosshairs with a generic hip-hop silhouettes, which has been their trademark since 1986. Like most days, we are allowed to enter with proper ID and are allowed to pass through without any questions, and I was. However, the two security guards, suspected retired race soldiers, unbeknownst to me at the time, followed me into the cafeteria. One asked, is that a police officer in the target? At first, I had no idea what he was talking about and asked, what? He repeated the question. I replied, it's a logo, and did not say another word, though I wanted to. Correct or incorrect response, Mr. Fuller?
Well, you can hear again, questions and answers. A question was asked, what was the symbol? And you gave an answer, and you asked a question, and supposedly, from what I'm hearing now, you were given an answer, and that was that. Questions and answers. Problem solved. So, a problem is either solved or it isn't. And most questions and answers are about problem solving. Most people who ask questions, supposedly, are either trying to solve a problem or trying to make one. And so, but the process is still questions and answers. So, I have no way of making any other further comment. If a person asks me a question, about something that I'm wearing, I'll just answer the question as best I possibly can and wait for the next question.
Okay.
And if there's no further questions, there are no further questions.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. What line are we going to go to? Okay. Line number one, you're on.
Cool. Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Yes, this is just a suggestion, right, to increase funding for you guys and to increase the viewership and listenership, because a lot of times people cannot get into your show. So this suggestion basically is for your technical team.
Okay.
Maybe you guys should invest in YouTube in terms of like signing up to YouTube and getting this app called Google Plus. This app, or I'm sorry, but it's Google Hangouts. Now, this Google Hangouts, what it does is it increases your viewership, and it also basically makes sure that your communications is spread out more. And also, you can also get funding in terms of like commercials or whatever on your show through Google and YouTube. It's called Google Hangouts, because sometimes I can't get through, and so I'm stuck for a half an hour trying to get through. But if you it's a live stream. It's a little complicated, but people are doing this nowadays just to get the awareness out, because I believe the information that Mr. Fuller has is informational. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree, but that's up to me to do the research and, map it out.
Alrighty.
It's called Google Hangouts, and it's through YouTube.
Okay.
I'm the one that suggested the PayPal as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to be making my donation.
Thank you.
To support you guys. But it's called Google Hangouts, and it's through YouTube.
Okay, and that information will be passed on. And thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we'll do that. Pass that information on. Google Hangouts. Okay, this is from Mr. Everett. He says, this is a Gmail. Hello, Mr. Bobby. My name is Kenny from so-called Illinois. Recently, Richard Spencer, all-right leader, caused a controversy because he was allowed to speak at Texas A&M. The tension was so high that they are now reconsidering the limits of free speech, free public speak. Does this sound like a plot to roll back the rights of all people disguised as an effort to protect non-whites? I know the white supremacists thrive on confusion, and this sounds like a lot of it. Mr. Fuller, could you answer that?
Could be. I mean, it is what it is. And so what you do, you listen to everybody.
Yes.
See, now, the code position is everybody should say what's on their minds. Everybody. This is how you solve problems. When people hide things that are on their minds, that is likely to make problems. When people become secretive about anything that may affect someone else, all right? People are not saying what it is that they intend to do. This can cause problems.
Yeah.
When everybody knows what everybody else's intentions are, you have a better avenue for solving problems. That's just the mathematics of it. And counter-racist science is about mathematics, not personal as business, okay? So you just simply say, there's mathematics and social science, which means interaction between people. So let people say exactly what is on their minds, what they intend to do, why they intend to do it, how they plan to do it, and what do they expect the constructive result to be. Those four things. And let everybody talk. And then everybody gets what? Understanding. Because once everybody has understanding about anything, even if it makes you angry or something like that, this is a path to get that problem solved. Because nobody's misunderstanding anything. Nobody is what? Confused. Once you eliminate confusion, you are really, in the process of eliminating confusion, eliminating the system of white supremacy, because they thrive on confusion.
Okay. Well, when you hear the music, you know what that means. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Listen, thanks for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.